Oh boy, we've had quite a lot of wood delivered, yeah. And the lorry that brought this in was huge, so that was a little bit emotional. But that means lots of stuff is about to happen. Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped. And welcome to episode 2 of my dream garage build. Much to discuss in this episode, and things really kick off this week. Lots of very scary things going to happen, like the roof being taken off. Now, it's a pretty good vantage point up here to see the building site, but first up, I just wanted to say a massive thank you to the hugely positive reaction to the first episode. Honestly, I get used to putting videos up and there's always a bunch of negative stuff in the comments, but that video was one of the few examples where almost everything was positive, so a massive thank you to that, and a huge amount of interest. I really didn't expect people to be so interested. But there's loads to discuss, and I wanted to pick up on a few points from the first video, a few questions people had asked that I'm sure we'll answer as we go through the build. But also, this video I'm probably going to film over a few days, maybe a week or two, to capture big things. I'm not going to do a video every week, but when big things happen, I want to try and bring you on board and explain the thinking and explain the process, because by the sounds of it, many of you are doing similar things. But the first thing is I had an excellent suggestion from a few of you. I had half thought about doing it, but I wasn't sure how. But then there were a few suggestions that I should do a time-lapse of the build. So I did a bit of research, got onto Amazon and bought myself a time-lapse camera. And here it is. Now, you can do time-lapse with lots of things. You can use GoPro actually, but this is a camera I found on Amazon. It's made for building sites actually. It's completely weatherproof, and I've set it up here on the corner of the house. It has a really nice view. Unfortunately, I wish I'd thought about it before, because I would have loved to have had time-lapse of the scaffolding going up and the tiles coming off the roof, but nothing major structurally has happened, and this week the roof comes off, which should be a really interesting process. So I've set it up there. It's basically set to record a still image every 5 minutes. And it's only recording between 8 to 5 during the week, Monday to Friday. So it's just recording when the guys are on site. And then the output of that is a video file that I can show you right at the end of the build. It's running on 4 AA batteries, and the battery life depends on how often you get the camera to take a still. But set up as it is, the battery life is about 120 days. So that should be ample. The only challenge with time-lapse, of course, is it's not until the end of the project you find out whether or not what you've done is any good, because it only arrived today, building starts again tomorrow. I haven't had a chance to run a trial, but I'm hoping all the settings I've done are okay. One of the things you'll spot on site, we've had lots and lots of materials delivered now. We've got loads of timber on site, that's some plasterboard, all of that is basically roof. We've even got our own on-site thunderbox. Excellent. So, since the last video, I think in the last video, all I'd had done is the tiles removed, and then we could kind of see the interior space. The really exciting thing that's happened since then is we've marked out the downstairs. So let me just spin the camera around, and we've now got a course of bricks running where all of the various stud walls are going to be inside, and we've removed the big shed that was in the corner, so you get a much better feel for the size of the space. And I think that's my challenge at the moment. You get architect's drawings done up, and even though I've got, I actually got an A-level in engineering drawing, so I can look at plans and get my head around them, but it's still quite difficult to work out exactly what things are going to look like. Now, let me address a couple of the suggestions so far. So in this third bay, this is going to be the entrance into the building. We're going to have a little kitchenette, and then the staircase is basically going to go up there, up to the second floor. We're going to have a wine rack and so on. So many people said, put the kitchenette upstairs, have 3 bays in the garage. And I just wanted to kind of cover that off, really. I totally get that, because you're all car guys, so you're wanting as much garage space as possible. The 2 challenges I've got is this bay here, we would still need to have stairs to go upstairs, and that would mean it would be quite small, and I'm not quite sure where they would go and look nice. And also, although I've got a couple of cars, a lot of people have said put lifts in as well. The challenge with a lift unless the thought we did have is if you didn't do the mezzanine in this bay and you could have a pillar lift in here to stack 2 cars. I'm not a mechanic. I don't ever have reason to put a car on a lift. If a car needs that much work, I take it to a garage and get them to do it. So I get that. Some of you may well put 3 bays in or put some lift in. For us, for our requirements, a double garage is perfect, and we really want that little kitchenette area. We do have restrictions in terms of planning. This can't be a habitable building, so we can't put a full-blown kitchen and make it into an Airbnb. That simply isn't possible. I've got the kitchen downstairs. It's not really a kitchen, it's a sink and a place to put a kettle, so that when I'm working from here, I can pop downstairs and make myself a brew. And then the main thing, that will be some storage in a wine cellar and stuff. So that's what that building's for. Let me spin the camera around again, and we can see that now we've got double courses of bricks. So you can kind of see the area. So that would be, I'm going to call it the kitchenette area. And then at the back here, this is going to be a garden tool store where I can keep things like, you know, all of my various gardening equipment, maybe things like roof box. I am a bit concerned about some of the bigger items I've got, like a roof box and my bike box. But you can see that quite nicely. And then over here, we've got an area. This is going to be a lockable bike store. Again, a couple of e-bikes, and then I might have some kind of bike rack across that far end wall and hang the bikes on their front wheel. And it may well be that I have some bikes mounted on the walls, my nicer ones. So that's nice to kind of see the layout, that's for sure. Next thing I wanted to just not address, but chat through. Quite a few comments about the character of the building, especially these walls. A few people have suggested, either are you keeping the walls to keep the character? If you're not, what kind of damp treatment are you going to put on them? Now, I'll show this in detail when we're doing it, but we don't want to keep these walls. We need to put some damp proofing, damp treatment on them, so they probably wouldn't look too much like that anyway. This barn has been here a very long time, and there's not a huge amount of water ingress that we can see through them, but we've had a chat with building control, with the architect, and we're going belt and braces. We're going to do a 2-phase damp proofing on the walls. They're going to get a sprayable damp proof treatment and then a membrane sheet that goes over them as well. And I'll try and get that on camera, and then they will be covered up by plasterboard so that I can just have white, clean walls in here. And I know there's an element that will be hiding some of the character of the barn downstairs, but upstairs, when these major beams here, when they get removed, we are keeping those and trying to reuse as much of that as possible. And we're going to try and have as much exposed beam work as possible in the barn. And for us, it's really, really important to keep as much of the original character of this building as we can, because it's so cool and so beautiful. Although it's beautiful in a kind of rugged, rustic way, we want it to be beautiful in an architectural way with all of that character as well. So that's it. So I will do a bit more when we're actually doing the damp proofing. I'll try and get that on camera, maybe talk to the guys that are doing the work for us. But yeah, we had a good meeting with building control on site last week and talked through what we were going to do. With the 2 treatments we are doing, we could do one or the other, and we decided to do both, just to make doubly sure that we don't get any damp problems. Because while the walls are exposed, this is our opportunity to sort those future damp problems out by doing it right the first time. It may well cost a few extra pounds, a few more hundreds of pounds, but it will be well worth doing, that's for sure. So next, big job, and it's a job we didn't necessarily think we were going to have to do. When we did the drawings, basically what we're doing here is a building inside a building. The mezzanine will be supported on a steel framework. The roof will be supported by that steel framework, and effectively the walls will hang off it. So we'll have the outside of the barn, but we're really building a building in a building. And we did think originally we could do that without having to remove the roof. But there's a couple of reasons why we're needing to do that. First up, just in terms of access of building the steel frame, it makes it easier if the roof's not there, but also the roof joists and the sizes of those joists isn't the size that we need to fulfill modern day kind of insulation requirements. So it's just an easier process to take the roof off and put another one on. So yes, and we've been joined by the pups. So yeah, so this roof is removed this week, or we start anyway. So we'll take the roof off, and then this is the new roof just here. So we are going to try and maintain or keep as much of the old materials as we can. You can see here we've taken off all of the old tiles because they're beautiful old tiles. And I think we've managed, talking to the roofers, I think they managed to save about 2/3 of the original tiles. And then we've got matching tiles when we have to reinstate the roof and put the tiles back on. But yeah, we'll certainly miss that roof. That's coming off this week. Now it's 2 days later, but one of the big challenges with this building project is on-site parking. We got lots and lots of vans, but so much has happened just yesterday, and it's all to do with the damp proofing. So let me wander you into the barn and show you the progress that has taken place. We've got lots of the guys on site. We've just been having lots of important meetings trying to decide some stuff. But I want to show you a couple of things. I won't keep the boys are over there. Look, they're over there. They're looking for their equity fees. So first up, this is the first bit of damp proofing. This is Steve, who's painting this stuff on. This is called blackjack, and it looks disgusting. Looks like tar, basically. So that's the first stage of the damp proofing, and we can kind of see it on here. But then on top of that, and we can see these frames, this is a damp-proof membrane on these frames. So that, straight away, you can kind of see, and there is a void between the wall and the membrane. So that, you know, this, I've been away a day and massive things are happening. We can kind of see, we've got the damp proofing all the way along that wall. And then this wall there, because of the way the land falls, so because it's noisy in here, let me walk you around the back, because I think you might be able to see, I've still got all of my timber, you'll be able to see the challenge we've got with the damp proofing and why it's so important. Because if we walk around the back, if you hadn't tuned into the first episode, you might not quite realise it, but I'm now up onto the top of the garden. If I do this, so you look down onto the site and you can see that the ground level to the side of the building is really, really high. So that left-hand wall and the back wall are basically retaining walls holding back all of this hill. So that's why that damp proofing is so important. Because if we look at the levels at the back of the building, you can kind of see that's pretty much, there's only about a foot or so until the bottom of the roof. And that's why damp proofing is so, so important. I'm getting some love from the Petrol pup just there. So there we go. A really interesting one. So blackjack first on the walls, and then that membrane should help us well, hopefully completely prevent any moisture ingress or damp ingress into the building. But it happened so fast. I was away yesterday. Excuse me. I was away yesterday in Paris for a day and came back, and Trace was like, there's a lot of work being done already. So yeah, so that should be done today. So that's all the damp proofing in place. And then the guys at the moment, what they're doing is taking the drawings and just working out where all the various structural elements, the steel work, where that's going to go. We've got some decisions to be made about the front of the fascia of the building. The biggest challenge they've got, because we're effectively building a building in a building, is I don't think when they built that barn, spirit levels existed. There's not a straight line, a level line, or a 90-degree angle in that building. It's a nightmare. I feel really sorry for them. You know, you can kind of see the way that the old building was done is challenging, to say the least. But there you go. There's the latest update to my dream garage build. Exciting times. I'm really hoping that the time-lapse camera I set up is working. I'm going to check that a bit later. But yeah, very, very exciting. Now I'm going to do the most important thing. Whenever you've got building taking place, I'm going to make the boys a brew. But put in the comments below any suggestions or comments or things you might like me to try and include in the build. But I hope you enjoyed that as much as I do. Honestly, this build process is so exciting. But if you enjoyed that, give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol Ped for plenty more content to come. And I shall see you on the next video. You take care, guys. Drive safe.